In this video, we're going to continue talking about order of operations and using order of operations to do calculations in one step with a computer assist. In our case, we're using the spreadsheet Excel. In the last video, we solved example 2.3 in one step in Excel. So you see the original formula here, and you see figure 4 that shows the solution in Excel. If you want to see the walkthrough of that, that is in our prior video. Turning to example 2.4, we are faced with another expression. Solve the expression 3 minus 7 over, then you have a square root, and that square root contains 8 squared divided by 30 plus 10 squared divided by 36. So notice that entire quantity, 8 squared divided by 30 plus 10 squared divided by 36, is under the square root. So all of that has to be contained within the square root. The example asks us to not use intermediate steps. It says instead, convert this expression to one line. Note that Excel uses square root instead of the square root symbol and the caret rather than a superscript to signify exponents. Round the answer to one decimal place, i.e. the tenths place. So what we're going to do is convert this expression to one line that Excel is going to be able to understand. Then we're going to calculate the answer in Excel. This expression, by the way, is another statistical calculation. So this will come up in your statistics classes. So once again, the formatting of this formula is visually separating off the numerator or the top of the fraction from the bottom. If you don't preserve that separation when you put this formula onto one line, then order of operations is going to work against you. What you have to do is use order of operations to preserve the top and the bottom separation. I'm going to start by just rewriting this whole thing. The formatting of this formula is telling us that the top of the fraction has to be calculated separately from the bottom. The top then needs to be marked off with parentheses in order for that to happen, because otherwise the division between 7 and whatever's on the bottom would take precedence over the subtraction between 3 minus 7. The square root actually functions as a set of parentheses. So we don't actually have to put parentheses around the bottom square root. So how would we write this thing on one line? Well, we start with the top of this formula, which is open parentheses 3 minus 7 close parentheses. Then we have our division sign. Then we have the square root. Now, what goes under the square root? What we see from the formatting under the square root is a couple fractions added together. We also have some exponents in there. Now, when exponents are written like this, they apply only to the number they're written on. So when we're looking at this, we're seeing that 8 is squared, then divided by 30. When we take a look at the fraction on the right-hand side, 10 squared divided by 36, once again, the square is attached only to the 10, so the 10 needs to get squared before being divided by 36. So we have a fraction on the left and a fraction on the right. By the formatting, they're showing you they need to be calculated separately and then added together. The thing that's fortunate about this is order of operations takes care of everything. We need the 8 squared to happen before the division by 30 happens. Well, that is going to happen naturally by order of operations. 8 is going to get squared first because exponents are a higher priority than division. Then this division will happen, divided by 30. Now, do we need to surround that fraction by a parentheses? The answer is no, because these two fractions are going to get added together, but that addition is only going to happen after the other higher priority operations have already occurred. So if we take a look at the second fraction in this expression under the square root, we have 10 squared. That's going to happen first. That's what we want. That's going to happen next according to order of operations, and that is what we want to happen next. And after all of that happens, the addition will take place because the addition is the lowest priority operation here. So we don't have to use any parentheses under this. Now, some calculators will demand that you use parentheses under this. And in fact, just so you know, you can put extra parentheses in as long as you don't enclose the wrong thing. They're not going to make a difference to the calculation. So now we have this expression on one line. Order of operations is going to preserve the order that we see in these visual cues in the formatting. Now, how do we get this into Excel? Well, we have to take into account that Excel uses the square root function instead of the square root symbol and the caret rather than the superscript. Further, I'm just going to put in the equal sign because when we type things into Excel, in order to get the calculation to happen, the equal sign has to precede it. So in Excel, what you would type is open parentheses, 3 minus 7, close parentheses, division symbol, SQRT is going to be your square root function. You have to open parentheses and put the expression inside. It's going to be 8 caret 2. That's how you write 8 squared in Excel, divided by 30 plus 10 squared, so 10 caret 2 in Excel, divided by 36, close parentheses. And if you type that into Excel, it's going to calculate out this expression for you in one step. Let's go do that now. All right, here I am in Excel, and I'm going to type out our formula that we just figured out, equal sign, open parentheses, 3 minus 7, close parentheses, divided by SQRT, open parentheses, 8 caret 2 divided by 30 plus 10 caret 2 divided by 36, close parentheses, and we hit enter. And we get the answer, negative 1.80497. Negative 1.80497. Now this question asked us to round the answer to 1 decimal place, i.e. the 10th place. So to 1 decimal place, this would be negative 1.8. I know that because the second decimal place is 0. 0 is 4 or less. So you simply truncate to the first decimal place and you get negative 1.8. And that is the answer. If you want to see the completed Excel work, you can take a look here in Figure 5. Our last example in our order of operations section comes from finance. This type of calculation comes up when calculating the net present value, or NPV, of an investment. And you do that in order to make decisions about where to invest money. So example 2.5 says, evaluate the expression 1,000 divided by, in parentheses, 1 plus 0.08, quantity squared, minus 850. And it says round the answer to 3 decimals. So 3 decimals, as we learned in our rounding section, is the thousandths place. Once again, here we have a complicated expression, but the formatting is giving us hints and cues that we can pick up. So we see that the fraction composed of 1,000 divided by the quantity 1 plus 0.08 squared is separated from the 850, clearly. Now it turns out that order of operations is just going to take care of all of this because what we see visually is that we want the 1,000 to be divided by whatever is in this parentheses squared. Well, whatever is in the parentheses is going to be calculated first, according to order of operations, because parentheses are the highest priority. After parentheses, exponents. So what is inside the parentheses is going to be added together, and then it is going to be squared. Division is the next highest priority in terms of what is present here. So the 1,000 divided by whatever that ends up being in the denominator is going to happen next. Subtraction is the lowest priority operation here, so it will happen last. So the thing that happens because we have the parentheses here is that those parentheses forced the addition within them to take place first, even though addition is a very low priority operation. So in fact, this just translates straight from what is written in the stacked way, I suppose you could call it, to one line. You're going to have 1,000 divided by, open parentheses, 1 plus 0.08, close parentheses, squared, minus 850. And once again, order of operations is going to have what goes on in the parentheses go first, so that is going to take care of that calculation. 1.08, which is what that's going to come out to, is going to get squared because exponents are the next priority. Then the 1,000 is going to be divided by that quantity because division is the next highest priority, and the subtraction will take place last. And that's exactly what we want to happen. So in Excel, the equal sign invokes the calculation, and we're going to type this exact sequence. The only difference is going to be that instead of having the superscript show the exponent, we have caret 2, right? So caret 2 means squared minus 850. Let's take it over to Excel and see what this calculates to. Here we are in Excel, and I will type equal sign 1,000 divided by open parentheses 1 plus 0.08 close parentheses caret 2, that'll square that, minus 850. Hit enter, and you get the answer 7.33882. Now, before we round that, I just want to emphasize a couple of things. Extra parentheses do not hurt anything. If you're worried about getting that 850 to really subtract from that whole entire fraction, you could simply place another set of parentheses around the entire fraction 1,000 divided by the quantity 1 plus 0.08 squared. That is not going to change your calculation one bit. Extra parentheses, as long as you don't enclose the wrong things, like and make a calculation happen that you didn't intend, will not hurt your calculation. So if you are nervous about, is this going to calculate first? Is that going to calculate first? Just throw parentheses around whatever quantity you're concerned about, and it will make sure to go the way that you want. However, you don't need to add extra parentheses if you just use order of operations. As you can see, I'm taking them out here. I'm going to hit enter, and that answer isn't going to change one bit because the computer understands what I'm trying to tell it. Last bit of advice about order of operations: when you're using a new program or a new calculator, test out some calculations. Just make sure that order of operations is working the way you intend. Some calculators do things a little differently. Some programs do things a little differently, so you don't want to get tripped up by things like that. But in general, these order of operations are what is instituted. The last thing I want to do here is do the rounding. Round the answer to 3 decimals. So in order to round to 3 decimals, that's this spot here, we're going to look in the 4th decimal place. The 4th decimal place is an 8, which is 5 or greater. And so the 8 in the 3rd decimal place needs to be rounded up to a 9, 7.339. Order of operations, once you become confident with it, can really help you clean up your calculations, make them more efficient, and make it so that you can do them in one step, so that the setup is everything and you get the answer with no intermediate steps for error to sneak in. Finally, just notice that the work we just did in Excel is shown in Figure 6, which gives a snapshot of the whole process in Excel.